In 1968, Mark Crowley's play, The Boys in the Band, swept both gay and straight audiences alike. This controversial work was adapted by Crowley into a 1970s film. Over 40 years later, Crayton Robey's documentary, Making the Boys, examines this seminal work and its place in gay history. The documentary has been called essential viewing by The Hollywood Reporter.
My inspiration for making The Boys was just, I just look around today and I see that we have all these freedoms, and I feel that people don't really connect the dots. I think that the older generation and the younger generation really don't relate to each other. And I think a lot of that happened because of the AIDS epidemic. Our history is not taught in schools, and I just feel like our legacy should be preserved.
I don't know what Boys in the Band is. That's just what a bad gay, when you're like, what's a bad gay? Bad gay.
I haven't really heard of the Boys in the Band, so I know that's very embarrassing, but I'm this boy in this band, but I don't know otherwise.
The Boys in the Band is a play that was written by Mark Crowley in 1968.
It was tried out, in a workshop, and then it was very cautiously moved off Broadway, and nobody knew whether it was going to work there or not.
Within a year, it had opened nationally and internationally. And this is all before Stonewall happened, which is so amazing. And what this piece of work did, because it was reviewed in the papers, it created a dialogue about homosexuality. Within that same year, he was approached by a couple different studios, and it was made into a major feature film.
I heard about Boys in the Band when I was probably in my early teens, so I was too young to actually go and see it, but it had caused quite a scandal as an out gay film. This was the life I couldn't even dream about at this point, because though I knew I was gay, I didn't know there was a future for me.
At that particular time, you go see the play, but then you go out for a drink that night and you could be arrested.
There was a period in American history not so long ago, some of us were alive, when gay people were virtually invisible.
In the 60s, gays were evil, they were nasty, they were twisted and psychotic, or they were pathetic. There was no middle ground.
I didn't know what I was going to write about, but, what does one write about? One writes about what one knows, and that's one's life.
What The Boys in the Band does, it just documents that moment in history and that group of people that assembled at that birthday party and that were just dealing with their demons or not.
When I thought I had to do something and I started to work on the play, it was just reaching for a legal pad out of my briefcase and, beginning to scribble some notes on a yellow legal pad. And day by day, they kept growing and the pile got thicker and thicker.
From a historical perspective, we have to say that it was the most significant and the most important gay play in terms of just advancing our causes because of the visibility that it gave us. People have their own personal experiences with the piece. Seeing these gay images of themselves was so important. But I think it's also overshadowed by the movement that had started, the gay liberation movement, where people, they could not really like these particular characters because they had to celebrate their freedom.
There were a lot of future gay activists sitting in the audience who were being imbued with the idea that this is something that we should be open about and proud of. I say in the Gay Metropolis that the last speech, which most people thought was very self-hating.
But you'll always be homosexual as well. Always, Michael. Always. Until the day you die.
And in fact, that was a very liberating statement because that was finally an acknowledgement that this condition was not a choice or something that you could get over. This was who you were.
I like to call it a classic. I mean, it's something that we have as a culture, and it came around at a moment and just rescued us in a very, very special way.